Religion makes promises. It paints pictures of peace, purpose, and eternal life. But what happens when those promises fall apart under scrutiny? What happens when the words don't match reality? This isn't about personal faith or private beliefs. This is about the systems that have shaped societies, controlled laws, influenced education, and guided the behavior of billions, all based on stories that don't hold up. One of the biggest lies religion tells is that questioning it is wrong, that doubt is dangerous. From childhood, people are taught not to ask certain questions. The moment a child asks, "How do we know this is true?" they're often met with silence, fear, or worse, punishment. This creates a habit, a deep-rooted discomfort around thinking critically about the very thing they're told gives life meaning. But the truth should welcome questions. Only lies fear them. Another lie is that morality comes from religion, that without belief in a higher power, humans would have no reason to be good. But we don't avoid murder because of commandments. We avoid it because we're social beings who understand pain, loss, and empathy. Long before modern religions, humans lived in tribes with rules and cooperation. Morality isn't handed down from the sky. It grows from the ground, from human experience, from what helps us survive and live together. Religion also claims it offers the only path to meaning, that without it, life is just a pointless accident. But meaning doesn't come from dogma. It comes from love, creativity, relationships, growth, and understanding. A parent watching their child grow doesn't need divine permission to feel purpose. An artist lost in their work doesn't need scripture to feel depth. Meaning is something we build, not something we're given by a storybook. Then there's the idea that belief itself is a virtue. That faith, defined as belief without evidence, is somehow noble. But if you apply that standard to any other area of life, it falls apart. You wouldn't trust a doctor who said, "Just have faith this pill works." You'd want proof. You wouldn't give your money to someone promising miracles without showing results. But when it comes to religion, faith is treated like a moral achievement. It's not. It's a suspension of thinking. And when entire societies reward that kind of suspension, it spreads. Many religions teach that humans are born broken, that we're flawed by default, that without their teachings, we are doomed. This narrative serves a clear purpose. If you're told you're sick, you'll look for a cure. And if they claim they have the only cure, they gain control. This is not just manipulative. It's psychologically damaging. It teaches people to distrust their instincts, their desires, and even their own goodness. Religious institutions also claim they speak on behalf of truth. But those truths keep changing. Once, slavery was defended using religious texts. So was the subjugation of women. Today, those passages are either ignored or reinterpreted. The same texts that once justified torture now preach love. If the eternal truth evolves with social progress, maybe it wasn't eternal to begin with. Maybe society is progressing despite religion, not because of it. Another common claim is that religion brings people together, and it can, but only within the same tribe. Across tribes, it often divides. Wars, discrimination, and countless acts of violence have been carried out in the name of belief. Not always because of belief, but with its blessing. When people are taught that their worldview is the only correct one, others become threats. The label, non-believer, becomes more than just a descriptor. It becomes a reason for exclusion, pity, or hatred. Religions also claim that they answer the big questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What happens after we die? But their answers are often simplistic, unverifiable, and contradictory. The scientific method has given us answers that evolve with evidence. Religion gives answers that are fixed, regardless of facts. Saying, "God did it," might feel satisfying, but it doesn't explain anything. It shuts down inquiry instead of encouraging it. A deeper lie is that suffering has meaning because of religion. That pain is part of a divine plan. That loss is a test. That tragedy brings us closer to something higher. But telling someone their pain was necessary for a mysterious cosmic reason doesn't heal them. It delays real understanding. It avoids accountability. It shifts focus away from the real causes of suffering, poverty, violence, disease, and puts it on divine mystery. When everything is God's plan, nothing can be challenged, and nothing gets better. Many religions also teach that the world is fallen, corrupt, or temporary, that this life is just a test for a better one. That mindset has consequences. It devalues the here and now. Environmental neglect, political apathy, and societal stagnation often find cover in religious narratives that say the real world isn't the one we should care about. But this is the only world we have. Telling people to focus on the next life discourages them from improving this one. Then there's the lie of divine justice, that in the end, everyone gets what they deserve. That even if this life is unfair, some invisible hand will sort it all out. But this belief allows people to tolerate injustice. It creates a world where systemic cruelty is accepted because it's assumed to be temporary. People in power can maintain inequality while preaching patience to the oppressed, because in the next world, the roles will be reversed. But that's not justice. That's a delay, and delays only help those in power. Religious stories also claim to be historical, but when you examine them, many fall apart. Flood myths, talking snakes, virgin births, these are not consistent with how the world works. When evidence contradicts belief, belief doesn't change. Instead, it retreats behind metaphor. The story wasn't literal, they say. It's symbolic. But they only say that after the facts get in the way. Before that, it was preached as truth. Another lie is that religion is compatible with science. It's not. Not at the foundational level. Science says, "I don't know. Let's find out." Religion says, "I already know." One is open, the other is closed. Religion often cherry-picks what science confirms and ignores what it challenges. That's not compatibility, that's convenience. Religious leaders often portray themselves as humble servants, but in many cases, they live in wealth while preaching sacrifice. Megachurch pastors fly private jets. Religious empires own land, buildings, banks. Meanwhile, followers are told to give, to obey, to wait for reward. If the people who claim to be closest to truth are living lives of luxury off the backs of others, maybe they don't believe the stories they tell. Or maybe they just know how useful those stories are. Some religions teach that love means obedience, that true devotion requires surrender, that doubting your faith is the same as betraying it. But real love is not submission. Real relationships are built on honesty, openness, and respect. If a system demands loyalty, even when it makes no sense, that's not love. That's control. The lie that death is not the end may be the most comforting one, and the most dangerous. It prevents people from grieving fully, from accepting the finality of life. It delays closure. It encourages denial. It promises a reunion that may never come. And because that promise can't be verified, it can be sold endlessly. Books, rituals, services, afterlife insurance. It's a powerful industry built on the fear of death and the hope of more. Even the idea that religion is about peace and love is carefully edited. Look closely, and you'll find stories of genocide, divine rage, and brutal punishment. Read the texts that people say are sacred. See what's actually there. You'll find rules that reflect ancient tribes, not modern ethics. You'll find ideas about women, outsiders, and sexuality that are incompatible with dignity. And you'll notice how much effort it takes to defend those ideas today. The most effective lies are the ones that mix truth with fiction. Religion offers community, ritual, structure, and belonging. But those good things are not exclusive to religion. They exist in art, sports, clubs, friendships. The lie is that without religion, life falls apart. It doesn't. People find meaning in countless ways. They find community without dogma. They love without fear of punishment. They grow without believing they were born broken. Religion tells people that truth is revealed, not discovered. That we already have the answers, written long ago. That questioning is rebellion. That curiosity is dangerous. But those are the tactics of any system that fears change. Because once people start asking real questions, once they start looking behind the curtain, the illusion breaks. There's another lie that often goes unnoticed. That religion is a personal matter, something that doesn't affect anyone else. But when beliefs influence laws, education, healthcare, and politics, they stop being personal. They become structural. When someone's religious view shapes what others can read, wear, teach, or marry, it's no longer private faith. It's public control. The defense that it's just my belief doesn't hold up when that belief shapes policy. We're also told that religious traditions deserve respect just because they're old. But age doesn't make something true. Slavery is old. Bloodletting is old. The longevity of an idea isn't a measure of its validity. If anything, it should make us ask why an outdated system continues to survive. Often, it's not because of truth. It's because of repetition, fear, and indoctrination. Some lies are subtle, like the claim that religion is about unity, that it transcends divisions. But the reality is, most religions create in-groups and out-groups, us versus them, saved versus lost, chosen versus cursed. These categories lead to real-world divisions. They shape how people vote, who they hire, who they help, and who they fear. When belief becomes a boundary, unity becomes impossible. Then there's the idea that revelation is reliable, that hearing a voice, feeling a presence, or having a vision is proof of truth. But these experiences are not unique to any one religion. They happen across cultures, often with completely opposite content. A Christian sees Jesus. A Hindu sees Krishna. A Muslim hears Allah. They can't all be right, but they can all be human. The brain is good at pattern recognition and emotional intensity. It's not good at verifying reality during heightened experiences. Revelation is not evidence, it's a feeling. And feelings are not facts. One of the most damaging lies is that belief is a choice, that people can just decide to believe, and if they don't, they're stubborn or evil. But belief doesn't work like that. You can't choose to believe something you find unconvincing. You can pretend. You can conform. But deep down, belief is about what your mind accepts as true. When religions punish disbelief, they're punishing honesty. Religion also claims that life without it is bleak, that removing belief removes wonder. But wonder isn't exclusive to faith. The stars don't need a divine author to be beautiful. Music doesn't need a sacred source to move you. Life doesn't need a cosmic purpose to be meaningful. The idea that awe requires religion is a failure of imagination. In fact, reality, as revealed by science and art and philosophy, is far more complex, strange, and breathtaking than any religious story ever told. Many believers argue that religion gives them comfort, and it can. But comfort doesn't equal truth. A lie can be soothing. A false promise can reduce fear. But that doesn't make it real. We don't accept other comforting lies about health, money, relationships. So why should we accept them about the nature of existence? Truth doesn't always feel good, but it's better than being comforted by something false. Religious education often involves shielding children from other viewpoints. That's not education. That's indoctrination. Real education introduces people to multiple ideas and lets them evaluate. If a belief system is true, it should survive scrutiny. If it needs to be protected from other perspectives, that's a red flag. Teaching only one worldview and calling it truth isn't enlightenment, it's control. There's also the idea that religion is just misunderstood, that the problem isn't the belief itself, but how it's practiced. But when harmful ideas consistently emerge from the same source, maybe the source is the issue. If a book keeps being used to justify harm, maybe the problem isn't how people read it. Maybe it's what's written in it. If peace only comes by ignoring large parts of a doctrine, maybe the doctrine is flawed. Religion tells people that obedience is virtue, that submission is strength, that the highest good is following rules, even if you don't understand them. But blind obedience is dangerous. History is full of atrocities committed by people who thought they were following orders, serving truth, or honoring their faith. Morality based on obedience doesn't allow room for growth, nuance, or responsibility. Then there's the lie that religion is the source of all beauty and culture, that without it, we'd have no art, no music, no moral stories. But humans create meaning and beauty everywhere. Religion often co-opts what was already human. People wrote poetry, told stories, painted, and loved before religion formalized it. Art doesn't come from temples. It comes from minds. Another claim is that without religion, society would collapse. But some of the most peaceful and well-functioning countries today are among the least religious. Nations like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark consistently rank high in measures of happiness, equality, and well-being, while having low levels of religious belief. The data doesn't support the claim that faith is necessary for moral civilization. It suggests the opposite. Religion often says that everything happens for a reason, that events are guided by a higher hand. But randomness exists. Accidents happen. People suffer without cause. Saying it's all part of a plan can be a way of avoiding the discomfort of not knowing. But it also dismisses the real pain people feel. It makes their experience about something else, something invisible, something they can't control. That's not helpful. That's a distraction. A common belief is that religious rules are timeless, that they apply across all cultures and eras. But when rules are based on ancient texts, they reflect ancient contexts. Rules about diet, clothing, sexuality, and family structure were written for societies that no longer exist. Holding modern people to those rules is like forcing adults to live by the instructions in a children's storybook. It doesn't make sense. Religions often claim to elevate the poor and the weak, but many religious hierarchies mirror or reinforce existing power structures. In caste systems, in priesthoods, in gender roles, religion has often preserved inequality rather than challenged it. When a system tells the oppressed to wait for the next life, it's not serving them, it's sedating them. Then there's the lie of exclusivity, that only one religion has the truth, and all others are false. But thousands of religions exist. Most people inherit their beliefs from geography, not choice. A child born in Pakistan is likely to be Muslim, in India, Hindu, in Italy, Catholic. If belief were about truth, it wouldn't be so dependent on birthplace. The fact that faith tracks with culture more than evidence should make us question its foundation. Religious stories often claim divine origin, but they show clear signs of human authorship. They reflect the politics, fears, and knowledge limits of their time. When we read myths from other cultures, we see them as products of imagination. But when we read our own, we call them sacred. That's not objectivity. That's bias. Another subtle lie is that religion is harmless if it makes someone happy. But ideas have consequences. Beliefs about sin, punishment, and divine surveillance shape how people treat themselves and others. A person who thinks they're being watched and judged constantly isn't free. A child raised to believe their natural thoughts are sinful may grow up with shame, anxiety, or self-hatred. Beliefs, even private ones, shape lives. Religion claims to offer humility, but often breeds certainty. Certainty about the origins of the universe, about morality, about the afterlife. But real humility means acknowledging what we don't know. Saying, "I don't know," is honest. Saying, "I know because my book says so," is not humility. It's arrogance wrapped in ritual. We're told that religion is about peace, but peace that requires silence, conformity, or submission isn't peace. It's the absence of resistance. Real peace allows disagreement, doubt, and dialogue. If peace comes only when everyone believes the same thing, it's not peace. It's control. The lie that divine love is unconditional falls apart when you read the fine print. Many faiths teach that if you don't believe, if you don't submit, if you question too much, you're excluded from salvation. That's not unconditional love. That's a contract, and in many cases, a threat. There's also the lie that religion protects the vulnerable. But in too many cases, religious institutions have covered up abuse, protected abusers, and silenced victims. From churches to temples to mosques, the pattern is often the same. Preserve the institution, not the individual. When people speak out, they're often punished instead of heard. A system that protects itself over people cannot claim moral authority. Finally, there's the biggest lie, that without religion, life is meaningless. That if there's no divine plan, everything is chaos. But meaning is not handed to us. We create it. In our relationships, in our actions, in our search for truth. Life isn't less meaningful without belief. It's more meaningful because it's ours to shape. When people finally leave religion, they're often told they'll feel lost, that without a sacred structure, they'll wander in confusion. But that confusion isn't a failure, it's a beginning. It means they're thinking for themselves. It means they're no longer outsourcing their questions to people in robes, books in ancient languages, or rules written before the wheel was invented. It means they're finally facing the world as it is, not as they were told it must be. That's not weakness. That's courage. Walking away from religion doesn't mean walking into nihilism. It means confronting life without filters. It means accepting that we are part of nature, not above it. That we have responsibilities to each other, not to invisible beings. That we are the authors of our own values. That our decisions matter because they affect real people in real time, not because they'll be judged after death. One of the most common reactions from believers is to say, "But religion helps me be a better person." But being kind doesn't require belief. Helping others, showing compassion, being fair, these are human capacities. They don't require a reward system. They don't need surveillance from the sky. If someone only acts morally because they fear punishment or want a reward, that's not morality. That's self-interest. True ethics come from empathy and understanding, not threats and promises. Another defense is that religion gives people hope, but real hope comes from human progress, not supernatural claims. We've cured diseases not by prayer, but by science. We've expanded rights not through prophecy, but through protest. We've understood the universe not by scripture, but by telescopes. The most hopeful story we can tell is not that a God will save us, but that we have the tools to save ourselves. And yet, even after all the lies, all the contradictions, and all the harm, religion still holds on because it starts early. It doesn't wait until people are grown and able to evaluate ideas. It starts when they're too young to question. It wraps itself in family, tradition, identity, and fear. And by the time doubt arrives, belief is no longer just a belief. It's a part of who they are. Questioning it feels like betrayal, not just of a doctrine, but of parents, friends, and culture. That's how deep the lie goes. But people are waking up, slowly, quietly, thoughtfully. They're starting to ask why unquestioned stories still shape their lives. They're starting to see that morality, love, meaning, and purpose don't depend on a holy book. They come from within. They come from connection. They come from awareness. Religion has lasted so long, not because it's true, but because it's useful to those in power. It comforts the powerless, yes, but it also trains them to stay that way. It teaches obedience, patience, and submission. It discourages rebellion, skepticism, and change. It offers imaginary justice so that people stop demanding real justice. It promises a perfect world so that people tolerate a broken one. That's not hope. That's sedation. Some people ask, what's the harm in belief if it makes people feel better? But belief shapes action. It shapes how people vote, how they treat others, how they raise children, how they handle suffering. It shapes what's considered acceptable, moral, and true. Beliefs are not just thoughts. They're engines. And when the engine is built on lies, the damage is real. It's not cruel to question religion. It's responsible. It's not arrogant to reject what doesn't make sense. It's honest. And it's not empty to live without gods. It's full of possibility, of accountability, of freedom. Leaving religion doesn't mean rejecting community or ritual or reflection. It means rebuilding those things on foundations that don't require submission, shame, or superstition. It means crafting a life where your thoughts are your own, where your values are chosen, not handed down, where your worth isn't tied to belief. The most important thing to understand is that you don't need religion to be human. You don't need it to feel love, to wonder about existence, to grieve loss, or to strive for something bigger than yourself. You are already enough. You already have everything you need to live a meaningful life, without pretending to know what can't be known, without reciting stories that don't stand up to reality. Religion tells lies, not always with malice, but often with consequence. And the greatest way to honor truth is not to fight belief with belief, but to live with clarity, honesty, and courage. So ask the questions. Let go of what doesn't make sense. Step out of the shadow of old stories and start writing your own. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.